Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you what your schedule is going to look like and how we're going to kind of navigate towards your test next week on March 2nd and March 4th. So normally on a Tuesday, you would have your 4th, 5th, and 6th period classes. You still will have those classes. Those would just be pushed later on in the day. So you should see some schedule changes on your calendar. Again, you could go to Teams, click on calendar, and you'll see some schedule changes here. Okay, so your 4th period would start at 12:20 and it'll go to 1:10. Your 5th period will start at 1:15, it'll go to 2:05. 6th period 2:10 to 3 p.m. So it's going to go all the way to 3 p.m. So not the same schedule that we normally have. It'll just be pushed on later in the day for 50-minute sessions. Okay, so for 50-minute sessions. Same thing with Thursday. You're going to have a testing session in the morning, but you'll still have your regular 1st, 2nd, and 3rd period class that you normally have on Thursdays. If you have a 1st period, I don't have a 1st period. That's why it's not showing up on my class. It will be at 12:20. Okay. And then that'll go to 50 minutes to 1:10. That's only if you have a 1st period class on Thursday. Your 2nd period class on Thursday will go from 1:15 to 2:05. Then your 3rd period class will go to 2:10 to 3 p.m. All right. So you might have testing on Tuesday and you might also have testing on Thursday. So I say you might have, because the students, not all students are going to have testing on these days. It's going to be certain students. So you want to keep an eye on your calendar. If this isn't showing up for you on your calendar, then that most likely means that you don't have testing. Okay, that most likely means that you do not have testing on Tuesday and Thursday. So if you normally have class time during this time on Tuesday and you normally have class during this time on Thursday, you'll still have class, but it'll be later on in the day. Okay, so for this morning session, if you have testing, this should be showing up for you on your calendar. Okay, so testing is going to go from 9 a.m. to 11:40 on Tuesday. Same thing on Thursday. It's going to go and start on 9 a.m. to 11:40 as well. So we're going to start here. We're going to meet inside Teams. You'll get called in by one of your teachers. Again, just because you might have my class doesn't mean you're going to test with me. Okay, so just because you have my class on these days doesn't mean that you're going to test with me on these days. All right, so again, you're going to have a session that starts. It'll be just like you're starting class. We're going to open up in Teams. You want to start in Teams. We're going to join in Teams. I'll give you some instructions. I'll give you some directions. And then from here, we're going to go inside of our desktops. We're going to close down Teams after I give you the instructions, after I give you the directions inside of the Teams meeting, and we're going to go over to our desktops. Okay, so if you want access to the schedule, right, because you can't see them here on my screen right here, you could go into Teams, and I'll make sure I'll put these inside of every single class session. But for this example, I'm in the general channel for 4th period. This is just an example, and you're going to have 3 different schedules here. So you're going to have one that I posted on Monday. That's going to be just for the testing schedule day. Okay, so we had a teacher create this one, and then you'll see what this kind of looks like here. So again, pretty much what we just saw on the last screen, but this is here for you, so you have access to it, right? Tells you the times here on Tuesday, tells you the times here on Thursday. Lunch is a little bit different, so keep an eye on that. You don't want to make sure that you're at lunch when you should be in class, or you're in class when you should be on lunch. Okay, so please keep an eye on the schedule. Download it if you have to, but you'll have access to it as well. I'll make sure it's available for all of you in all of the periods. Okay. So testing schedule, it's called ELPAC testing schedule. This is for March 2nd to March 4th and for March 4th. So March 2nd and March 4th. Okay, so like I said, we'll meet inside Teams. I'll give you instructions, directions, and then what we're going to do is that your computers look like this here, right? So again, we'll meet in Teams, but we're going to have to make sure that every single app is closed on our computers. So that means Chrome, that means Edge, that means Teams itself. We're going to have to shut it down completely. We're going to have to shut down Teams completely. We're going to have to close it down all the way. Okay, so we're back on the desktop because I want to show you how to close down Teams all the way. So before we close down Teams all the way, though, let's go back into the app. And we have to turn a couple things off, because what's going to happen is that we're going to have to turn Teams all the way off, and we're going to have to restart our computers, right? Because when we take that test, it wants to make sure we have no programs running in the background. So what you're going to do is you're going to be logged into Teams. You're going to click on your profile in the top right. You're going to scroll down to where it says settings, click on settings, and you're going to turn these top 3 options off. So they have to be unchecked. So the auto start application has to be checked off, open application and background has to be checked off, and then on close, keep the application running needs to be checked off, right? Because whenever we turn our laptops on, this might automatically launch Teams. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen so that we can actually take the test. If there's an application running in the background, you will not be able to take that test. That application will not work properly. So check those top 3 off. Just worry about those top 3 there, and then go ahead and close that app there. So Teams is still open. You might think that if you hit the X, that Teams is closed all the way. So what you want to do is to click down here to where it has your navigation at the very bottom, or some tabs at the bottom there, and then you're going to have one of them that might say Microsoft Teams. So you would right click it and then quit. So you would click on that little thumbtack down there, scroll up to so where you find an icon that looks like the Teams app, right click on it and then quit, and then you would shut down your computer, and then we'll move on to the next step. So again, before you close down Teams, you want to make sure that you go back to your profile picture, click on settings, make sure you turn those top 3 options off, go ahead and close that window, and then you want to make sure that Teams is shut down all the way. The way that you would do that is you would click on this taskbar down at the bottom. It might have the little buttons at the bottom already, but if you have a little arrow that looks like mine, it says, once you hover over, it says show hidden icons. I have a Teams app still open. So it's not the same regular taskbar down at the bottom. I might have some icons hidden over here that launch automatically. So right click on that one, scroll up to where it says quit. Teams will be closed, reset my computer, and if I had those 3 options off, Teams should not launch, and then we'll move on to the next step. So the next step, after you've closed down Teams all the way, after you turned off all those options inside of settings, you're going to shut your computer down, you're going to restart your computer, and what you're going to do is your computer is going to look like this, and you're going to have a desktop there. You're going to make sure everything's closed, that Edge is closed, you're going to make sure that Chrome is closed, definitely make sure that Teams is closed, all your programs, all your applications should be closed, right? So I have a window in the background, even that should have been closed. So what you're going to do though is when you restart your computer, at the very bottom left hand corner of your screen, it says type here to search. So inside there, we're going to try to locate the application that we need to take this test. So you're going to type in CA Secure Browser. So even as you start typing it, it should be showing up already. This is what the application looks like. If it's not showing up, that might mean that it's not installed. If it's showing up, that means you do have it installed. So you could click on open, you could click on this button up here, and that'll open up the app. So again, you want to type in CA Secure Browser. And as you start typing, that app should start showing up. If it's not showing up as you're typing, that means it's not installed on your computer. Another way you could tell that it's installed is because it actually says uninstall, right? So it wouldn't say uninstall if you didn't have it installed on your computer. So go ahead and launch that browser. Again, once you do launch it, right? Once you do launch it, it's going to close all the programs down, or you won't have access to anything on your computer. This is going to be the only program that you're going to have access to. So, you're going to have your taskbar that goes away at the bottom. You're going to have those windows that go away at the bottom. There should definitely not be any apps open. Again, this won't launch properly if you have any apps open. Right, so it's going to take a little while. It's going to seem a little laggy. Your computer might seem a little bit slow because it's trying to connect to this secure browser. Once it loads, it's going to look like this. In the beginning of the session, when we met in Teams, we're going to confirm what your SSID is. We're also going to confirm where to find your SSID. So your SSID will be located inside of Q. So you would go inside of Q and make sure you have your SSID located. When we meet in Teams, I'm also going to give you a session ID. So that session ID that I gave you, you're going to type that in here. You're going to type in your SSID. Your SSID might be different than your regular ID. Okay. So your regular school ID might be different from your SSID. So we want to make sure we're typing in our SSID. Okay, so to find your SSID, you want to make sure that you are inside of Q, right? So you could go to fusd.net. Click on fusd.net, and then you could scroll down to for students or however you access ClassLink, and then go ahead and sign in. So once you're signed into ClassLink, you're going to go ahead and launch the Q application. Okay, so you're going to launch the Q application. So you're going to sign into Q, and you're going to have up here in the top left-hand corner, once you sign into Q, you're going to have your profile picture. Click on your profile, then click on demographics. Click on demographics. Okay, so once you're logged in, you're going to have some information on top. You're going to have your local ID, which is going to be your student ID, your regular student ID. And then just below that, it's going to say state ID. That's going to be your SSID. So you want to make sure that you know your local ID. Maybe write this down on a piece of paper, and then your state ID. This is the state ID that we're going to need here for logging into your test. So you want to make sure that you write that down. Okay, so make sure you have your state ID. That's going to be your SSID that you're going to need in order to log into the test. You're going to need your SSID, and then you're also going to need a code that I'm going to give you in order to log into the test. So at this point, go ahead and write down your SSID and your local ID. Make sure you know which one's which. Okay, so again, you're going to be logging into the test once you have your first name, your SSID, the class session that I gave you, and then you're going to go ahead and hit sign in. Okay, so again, if you are having trouble, you're going to have to close out of this program. If for whatever reason you are having trouble accessing this browser, getting inside the test, you're going to have to close this program. You're going to have to close this program and go back to the Teams session. Okay, so again, you can't have Teams open and communicating with me inside of the chat, inside of Teams, right? Teams has to be closed. You shut down your computer, you launch this browser, you type in the test session, your ID, and then your name, and you click sign in. Okay, and then I'll meet you inside of the web browser, inside of this web browser here. Okay, and then I'll give you access to the test. I'll let you know which part of the test you need to start, and we'll get started on the test. All right, so let's say you're done with the test, you need to log out, right? Then you gotta go ahead and click on this X up here. Again, it is gonna be a little bit laggy, it is gonna be a little bit slow just because it's a secure browser. All right, so you would click on that X. It takes a while for you to back out of the program. All right, let's say that once you went down to the bottom left hand of your screen and you tried typing in California Secure Browser and it wasn't showing up, right? You might be able to download it manually. So in this example here, you could, at the bottom left hand screen, if that browser isn't showing up, you could start typing in Software Center. You start typing in Software Center. Again, you only have to do this step. You only have to do this step if that California Secure Browser isn't showing up for you. Okay. So this is where you can find some software. You could start typing in CEA Secure Browser up here. So it's actually a good sign if it doesn't show up, because that means it's already installed. Right? And then you should also not be in the Software Center if it's already installed already. All right, so no matches found. And that's a good thing, because that means it's already installed on your computer. So that means that you're good to go. So you can make sure that this is installed ahead of time. You can start searching for the app ahead of time to make sure that you maximize the amount of time that you have to take that test. Again, you want to make sure that you're scoring as high as possible on that test, and you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of the time that you have to take that test. All right, so if you have any questions of how to access your SSID, how to access the browser, where to go in the calendar inside of Teams to find that session for the test day, where to go inside of Teams to find the schedule for the testing on March 2nd and March 4th, go ahead and let me know.